Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast 205, and Mamma Mia, did the market maker give us a show this week or what? Damn. Bitcoin dropping all the way down to 78K with a 28% correction from top to bottom, right around that 30% mark that we usually see for Bitcoin during mid-cycle corrections, making this move quite similar to the way Bitcoin traded during the 2017 cycle, so we'll definitely recap that later in today's podcast. But I want to start this one off with saying that my outlook for the crypto market around the end of February, specifically into the February new moon, was absolutely a miscalculation. And what occurred was actually exactly what Bitcoin does right before the start of every lunar cycle, which is something that I've been teaching about for years now. And the reason I didn't respond to this 1 month lull that we had in the crypto market post Trump inauguration was because of how many negative exoteric events we were getting. We just had the Bybit event. We had what happened with the Trump meme coin. We had the biggest liquidation ritual in a single day. I mean, this compounding and then having no significant breakdown in Bitcoin dominance made me go against my own teachings, specifically in regards to the upcoming lunar cycle, which we've basically already moved into. And the obvious condition being a significant correction in Bitcoin, which we just experienced. So I was wrong with how I expected the end of February to play out in my more recent analysis, especially for altcoins. And I at least hope everyone who kept up with my update posts in between red pills for the past 4 weeks took my de-risking warnings seriously, because whoever took action because they needed to take action at least protected their capital in the process. And remember, I'm speaking to many people all over the world. Some just got into crypto 4 months ago, some 4 years ago, some all the way back in 2015. So for example, if you've been in XRP as long as I have, accumulating below 25 cents, then you're in a really good position right now. Same goes for when I got my first full Bitcoin, when Bitcoin was right below $9,000. My average into becoming a whole coiner put me up almost around 900% as of right now with my long-term Bitcoin position. And that's only Bitcoin, one of the lower ROI opportunities. And we have people in our community that got into Bitcoin when it was even $900 a coin. So I'm sure you can all understand there's no perfect outlook to give when we're all in a different position financially. And very similar to the last cycle, we didn't see the floodgates open for new investors until we had Trump win the election back in November, which was just 4 months ago. And I know some of those brand new investors are even here in our community. And it's, of course, great to have you here with us on this journey. And I'm grateful to be a part of your journey. But it is clear to me that especially the new investors weren't ready for this type of volatility that the crypto market expresses. So if you're still here with us, if you're still alive, if your heart's still beating, congratulations. You just made it through a tornado running through your town. And for the seasoned crypto vets out there, well, we're kind of used to this. But of course, that doesn't mean to just sit around and not have a plan and never take action. And know that my plan is very specific to my financial goals, my wealth plan, and my vision for the future. And I have many other things going on in my life, even this recent university that I launched around 2 months ago. And that's a big project for me, and a project that I'm considering committing even more to as the rest of this year, 2025, progresses, which is all about teaching people how to create businesses and to earn cash flow and to not be so reliant on investing. But I will be opening up re-enrollment for that pretty much at the beginning of April. So for anyone who's interested in that, I'll be sharing more when that time comes. But for now, that's what we want to focus on today regarding any particular opportunities ahead for those that did not do any de-risking or are just brand new to the market, or for those that have something they need to cover financially maybe over the next couple months and they just want to take some chips out of the gambling casino. So that's what we want to focus on right now, especially given this dramatically oversold environment we just entered, seeing the lowest 3-day RSI read we've seen for Bitcoin and total 2 and total 3 altcoin market cap charts since July and August of last year when Bitcoin was in the low 50K zone, pretty much at the bottom of that macro consolidation phase we dealt with in 2024. So before we get into the crypto market, I actually want to recap what's been going on lately with the traditional markets, which, by the way, I believe what we've experienced over the past week for the stock market is effectively pricing in the tariffs that will potentially go into effect as Trump has announced 25% tariffs on the European Union for March 4th. So I'm going to be getting over to the S&P chart. And the main reason I want to start with analyzing the stock market is because of a pattern that I've discovered for the immediate short term that could be hinting at how the next 2 to 3 weeks will play out. And it's something I have kind of brought up before, if you're keeping up with my year of the snake analysis, but we're going to be going through that today, especially since the dramatic move that we've had in the month of February for the stock market as well as crypto. And the pattern we'll reveal will also kind of go into that recent drop in a little bit more of a, dialed in sense, getting into some of the specific dates. And also we'll be going over all the past iterations of the year of the snake, all the way back to 1929. So here we are. We're looking at the S&P chart. I actually want to look at the 5-day candles. It'll just compress our data, have a much more easier to analyze data for us. And we're here on 2013, our last year of the snake, which corrected into the end of February, as you can see right here, pivoted in March, and then we actually hit around this March 14th week, which I want you to take a note of. Around March 14th, we stalled out sideways and were range bound until a move up into late May. And then we actually had a bit of a correction following this, and this was this was actually the largest correction in 2013, was the one that happened from May to June, believe it or not. Just about a month long, which presented a solid buying opportunity before continuation to the upside. But I want to keep an eye on this March 14th week, since we know we have the upcoming total lunar eclipse on March 14th this year. So we're going back to 2001, which would be our worst case scenario. But you can see the correction lasted until March 22nd, into the last week of March. And that actually aligns with our partial solar eclipse this year on March 29th, or what we just call it eclipse season. And as you can see, we bounced from this late March correction into the same exact week we initially topped out in the prior example, 2013, right there into May. This was on May 22nd, May 23rd, so you need to save these dates because I'm just showing you 2 iterations so far, and we're already kind of revealing something here. By the way, this is the worst case scenario. I'll break it down a little bit more, but what I'm pointing out is the connection between May 19th through May 25th, and if we go to what that will be this year, that's actually going to be in our 21st week of the year. And this number 21 is closely tied to Bitcoin, as the number Saturn in Gematria gives you that 21, as you can see in multiple ciphers, but notably in the Chaldean cipher, that 21. And Saturn is Satoshi, and this archetype Satoshi turns 50 years old this year on April 5th. And that 50 number is key for this year because we're in the year of the snake. Gives you 50 in Gematria. And if you want your mind blown, if you take from Satoshi's 50th birthday, which, as I brought up, it'll be April 5th, and we go over 50 days, you're going to see where this brings us. Right there into May 25th, which is literally the last day of the 21st week of the year, which we were just talking about a moment ago, and how that synchronicity was going on with the traditional markets as well, in the couple iterations that we've had for the year of the snake, 2013 and 2001. So 50 days after Satoshi's 50th birthday is May 25th, the last day of the 21st week of the year, and this date also has a 21 standard date numerology, so it's synchronized with the week and the date numerology. Absolutely wild. And this time of the year is within sidereal Taurus. So Taurus, the bull, Taurus is ruled by Venus. Let me get into the gematria of that. Venus gives you 25. In the Chaldean cipher, like we're in the year of 25, we're also in the Hebrew year 5785. It reduces to 25. This is the year of the serpent, giving you 97. 97 is your 25th prime number. Also, like the ticker symbol of Bitcoin, BTC, gives you 25. Now, before we move on, I do want to point out that in 2001, we actually did have a total lunar eclipse that year. It happened on January 9th into January 10th of 2001. And this year we have our total lunar eclipse, as mentioned earlier, on March 13th into 14th. But when I go into the daily chart on the S&P, which I'm not going to do just to prevent loading screens, but the market corrected to around 19 days before the actual eclipse. We bottomed before the eclipse is what I'm trying to show you. And then we actually popped up into the eclipse itself and then even extended about an additional 2 weeks after the eclipse. I believe it might even be a full 3 weeks. Yeah. So we extended a full 3 weeks after before things started to get pretty messed up. So here in 2025, we just had Bitcoin correct exactly 2 weeks before the eclipse. Then after the total lunar eclipse here, we had 3 weeks of a move up. And 3 weeks after our total lunar eclipse this year will be April 4th. Literally the day before Satoshi's birthday. So imagine the market maker did that to us. They just pushed us. It would be hilarious, you know? Like, but remember, if you've at least been following my work for like a year, which I know is a while in the world of crypto, but I've been doing this for 4 years now. By the way, this is like technically the 4th year anniversary of my channel. I totally forgot. I think it's like tomorrow. It's crazy, right? But yeah, so the second or so year of my channel, I showed that there was a pattern with the birthday age of Satoshi and the Bitcoin chart. I believe it was when Bitcoin hit 47K on Satoshi's 47th birthday, and then it corrected. It never went higher than 47K on the day of its 47th birthday, and then it corrected all the way down to 15K in our bear market at the end of 2022. And remember, the 47th prime, 15, went to 15K. Trump is the 47th president, right? I got to double check that because I don't even keep track of this stuff anymore. It's like it goes in my mind for a week and then I need to make room for it, you know? Yeah, he's the 47th president. Anyways, getting back to this 47 connection, we didn't see Bitcoin recover to 47K all the way until the week the Bitcoin ETF was approved, which was at the beginning of 2024. So think about this. In 2022, or must have been 2020. Yes, 2022. April 5th, 2022, if I remember correctly, Bitcoin hits 47K on Satoshi's 47th birthday, gets rejected, pulls all the way back to 15,000 at the bottom of our bear market. That being the 15th, or the 47 is the 15 connection. Absolutely crazy, the fact that we don't recover all the way until the beginning of 2024. So yeah, I mean, I would not be shocked if they ritualized Satoshi's birthday on this very, very special occasion. Especially remember, we had 50 years after the Yom Kippur War at the very end of the Jubilee, and the Jubilee is the 50 year. We had the thing start in Israel on October 7th. They love this 50 number, half a century. Anyways, getting back on track here. If it was to go that way, what I just explained, how we've bottomed about 2 to 3 weeks before the eclipse. We could rise up a little bit to it, like don't fully just keep crashing from here. And then we get bought up to hyperextend a little bit past it, maybe 3 weeks, make it up to the beginning of April, well, then that would be very similar to what happened in 2021, 2023, and 2024. And if we were to push up for a top in early April, that would be exactly what Bitcoin did in 2013 as well. And that was our last year of the snake. Then we have data for the Dow Jones going all the way back to 1986, showing that, well, April, during regular years, not presidential election years, April is actually one of our best performing months. This is something I've brought up about Bitcoin as well, how it is one of our best performing months, right behind the month of November. So this just gives us some exoteric data to consider. And given that the 2001 example is what I'm calling the worst case scenario, we still have the data showing us a solid performance in the month of April 2001 into May. If this were to sink us further into our upcoming eclipse season without a substantial bounce in the immediate short term. So we just gave two examples, but one of them has the eclipse in consideration. And this is kind of why I'm taking this example seriously if it gets worse from here, which, by the way, this 2001 example happened during the year of a Shemitah, which is a very specific esoteric thing to point out. And we don't have a Shemitah this time around, but we do have this Catholic or Vatican Jubilee, the 25-year half Jubilee. So yeah, man, so much energy going on right now, making it very, very difficult to predict. And I think that's why, even from the exoteric perspective, so many new retail investors got sucked into this like Trump pump thing because they really believed in it. They believed, okay, he's the crypto president. We're just going to go up and up and up and up. And I know plenty of you remember vividly, if you go over to if you go over to 3T Warrior Academy's channel and you check out their lives where they do the Good Morning Crypto show, and go to November 6th and see how I joined that show pretty much spontaneously at the very end. And I shared my take on everything that was going on. And I was very uneasy about everyone's sentiment around that particular belief. And I think right now we're watching it all come to fruition. And like I said earlier, my miscalculation is there. I admitted it. And I did very much think there was too much emphasis on this Trump character for the market to really be just continuously responding more and more negatively, because usually markets do opposite of what everyone thinks, right? Well, maybe yes, people were a little too bullish, and that extreme greed in the market just got reset, and now we've reached extreme fear, right? Getting back to these charts, let's go back to 1989. Here we are. Year of the Snake, and you'll now see why I called the 2001 example our worst case scenario, in the short term at least. Because just like 2013, we had this correction into late February, just like we recently experienced. And then we had this short-lived push up into March 16th, and then dropped back immediately after that, reset, and then we held sideways until entering the month of April. And then from April all the way until pretty much June, we pushed up. So this was an incredible year for the stock market. But we do have this move down into late February, push up into the mid-March timeframe, correction into the end of March, followed by a pivot into April, stalling out a little bit right there around that transition between April and May, but this bad boy just kept going higher. So regarding market structure, 1989 is actually very similar to 1929. Obviously not with the Great Depression consideration, but I'm talking purely from analyzing the chart and the structure throughout the year. Interestingly enough, 1989 was also when a Republican president, Bush, won the election. I mentioned this in my Black Moon Decoded when I included the Donnie Darko decode as well, and many other gems that I discovered for me to determine that Trump would actually win before the election date. Now, obviously, The S&P example for 1989 would arguably be our best case scenario for bulls, but obviously 2025 is seemingly starting out much more dramatic and bearish than what 1989 seemed like based on my research. But still, in the immediate short term, there's something to this week of March 14th that seems to be a pattern that we can look out for, especially since we just had this late March correction. And speaking of which, I'm going to go back to 1977. Well, look at the exact date of the top in 1977. It's March 14th. Ended up being a double top, but this was your peak. This was your highest 5-day candle close, probably the highest weekly close, and then we keeled over hard after that. But March 14th was where we stalled out. So, other thing to mention though is we have this double top peaking in mid-July. I just want you to keep that in mind because I've brought up many times my double peak cycle theory, which so far it's in the cards for Bitcoin. It's definitely many altcoin charts not seemingly the case. It could very well be the case for Solana, could very well be the case for XRP, even though XRP, because of what I'm seeing right now in the dominance chart, and because of what I'm seeing right now and how strong it's held up since this recent Bitcoin correction, well, XRP is kind of primed and ready to do its own thing, which I've been telling you to anticipate anyways all year because it had a suppressed horizontal trading range that it was stuck in for 8 years, 7 years, right? So all of that needs to be considered. We're trading up near these levels for XRP right now. It's kind of uncharted waters, you know? We've only had a blow off top back in very early 2018 where we were trading up at the $2 zone. And now we've been trading at the $2 zone for going on how many months now? 5? You know, it's pretty impressive. So anyway, we'll get to XRP a little bit later, but I want to get to 1965, but remember, March 14th. 1965, which was our last year of the wood snake, the snake year that we're in here in 2025. And interestingly enough, this played out with the move up into May, just like 2013 and just like 2001, with a similar structure specifically to 2013. And when we go to the week of March 14th, which here it's showing you the 12th, but right there, if you look to the left, you see it's just wicks. Well, we have the same thing, a retest of the highs, then a quick drawdown into the end of March before a solid April. Pattern is getting clearer and clearer, right guys? Now let's go back to 1953. So with this specifically, it's if we can have a kind of sideways push through eclipse season and then move up into May, followed by a deeper drawdown, I mean, that would really mess a lot of people up because so many people have just shifted bearish recently. And it was from you kind of, I don't want to say euphoria, but so much bullishness. Then the DeepSeek thing happened. It kind of hit the traditional markets pretty hard. Then we've had all the recent crypto events. So there's so many narratives that are negative. And then we have upcoming FOMC meeting right after eclipse season. So you guys gotta remind yourself that like all the energetics that we've had, no matter if you're looking into astrology or any other, you know, esoteric arts, well, this is a very heightened time where lots of wacky stuff is to go down. I mean, look at how we started out the year with the LA fires. I'm hearing about evacuations in Greece, you know, seismic activity going on in Italy, craziness. I mean, so many more other things going on. So we're here at 1953, literally topping out the week of March 14th. Specifically on the date of March 17th. If you went into the daily chart, you'd be able to see this for yourself. And this example might actually be even more brutal than the 2001 iteration because it got slammed down all the way until September with like no relief, at least not much. Really lackluster bear flags just over and over again. This is a really messed up structure. So yeah, this might even be worse actually, but way less investors going on here. 2000 had all the dot-com bubble euphoria and you know, it also had the 9/11 event, all that jazz. But getting back to 1953, March 17th was your top on the 5-day candles. It was the week of the 12th. So yeah, This was actually during Eisenhower's presidency, also a Republican. So, I mean, yeah, if you haven't de risked yet, and you absolutely need to because of whatever your personal financial situation is, then consider this buyback into mid March. It might be your chance if this pattern was to play out. And as I've shared with you for like the last month and a half in every single update post, if you're in that position where you're struggling, financially, then you really should have been taking the advice to de-risk, right? Protect your capital. Not everyone is in the same position, right? There's people that I know, like I learned this recently, and I don't want to make a tangent here, but I learned this recently. Coach JV told me that he invests in Bitcoin like every day or something like that, every day or every other day. Blew my mind. I was like, so you're still buying at these levels? And he's like, yeah, just keep DCAing forever. Like, holy shit, dude. So when you treat the market like that, man, it's like impossible to, yeah, it's impossible to really be emotionally worried when you have a dip. Anyways, obviously we're all in different financial situations. Coach JV owns like 12 businesses, right? I only have like technically two. Like holy moly, he has so much going on. So like, but that's the thing, anyways. Like investing as your full time thing is really not for everyone, right? Even day trading or the people doing all the leverage trading. Like most people are doing it and they're not even passionate about it. Why are you doing things you're not passionate about? Oh, because of desire, right? Well, this is where like my conscious work comes into play, and I've been very true to that work since the day I started my channel. I speak about it a lot on my live streams. I can't do live streams anymore with what I have going on with my university, but we're doing group coaching calls, AMAs over there every single week. And it's amazing to be able to chat and kind of keep the focus on more going on than just these day-to-day movements in a market, right? Because it's never about that. It was never about that. There's so much more to what's going on here. Anywho, 1941, the year of the snake in World War II. I mean, shit, you wouldn't be worried about your investments if it was fucking war going on, right? Well, that's what was going on in 1941. Crazy war. We all know about it. Famous. Still have the impact of it in a lot of parts of Europe still to this day, especially Eastern Europe. You could see it in the architecture. Anyways, so we have another pattern of dropping into February, rising into March. Actually, we pivoted around March 10th in this example, which would be like 3 days before our eclipse. So we pivoted around March 10th, and then we actually did go a little bit higher into early April. Actually, April 3rd, before a deeper correction. Now, I talked about this a little bit ago. If we were to repeat that 2001 move, where we had just a slight higher pump after the eclipse, it would be like a post-eclipse bullish fake out, is what I called it. Something to consider, right? And then also there's the chance that we play out like we did in the other couple examples where we have our correction, where we've had our correction, we hold sideways and then we actually recover into April, May top. That would be like a very positive scenario if that were to play out. I guess we would need like something like QE, or we would need some really isolated positive news for the crypto market and the markets in general, right? Because ever since Trump's inauguration, it feels like every other day there's something negative, either getting retail investors to leave or the market in general is just speculating on more negative events to occur. So we have here this deeper correction that came into the month of, pretty much pivoted around late May. And then we actually pushed up higher into July. So I wanted to talk about this July timeframe, late July, because of what happened in 1977 example. So structurally, 1977 and 1941 are quite similar. And that gives us that scenario that I've talked about where we would have that higher high into potentially the month of April, or August of 2025. And our last example we got to get to save time now is 1929. All right, here we are. All right, 1929, arguably the most significant snake year next to 2001, and we initially corrected into February. You could see that right there. We popped up into March 15th, and then a slight push higher into April before a pretty decent correction into May. And then we actually pushed even higher into topping out in September, which is very similar to 1989. That would be like your most bullish case because you just had this crazy euphoric move before a massive market crash, like a legit market crash. You know what I'm saying? So this would be very bullish, I think, for all of us who are in the know, because obviously we haven't really had this parabolic advance stage that's been going on this long like this in the crypto market specifically. But here you can see it's like about 100 days of just up and up and up and up and up. And I'm sure this was coupled by like very exaggerately overbought levels on RSI and other. I mean, back then in 1929, it didn't matter. It was all speculation, no computers, none of that shit. And yeah, like there's plenty other examples that we've given for this Q4 timeframe of how that could actually be if we were to have this scenario. That's how it would play out. So long story short is if we were to have like maybe three core examples, one of them being that it just gets really bad from here, darkness, just continue to slide down, but then we get bought up back into May with a chance to get out and then just continue into like a quote unquote bear market. That could be a possibility. It would align with our lunar cycle theory technically. Be very disappointing for altcoins, but it is an example to put on the table. So nobody could say that it wasn't presented. Then we would have scenario number 2, which is more like the move up into summer and kind of still concluding this cycle before the technical 4-year cycle is over. And then the last example would be moving up all the way like into Q4 like we typically see with a run, and then we just get a major market wipeout, you know, and that could be across the board for everything. I just don't know how they're going to keep pushing this up more and more and more without things like QE or just kind of like giving some relief to the drama that's going on since this recent election of President Trump. So we had this initial correction into February, late February, push up into March. That seems to be a pretty clear pattern. So 7 out of 8 iterations had a short-term top formed during the week of March 14th, which would be our 11th week of this year. If you wanted to save it on your calendars, it's from March 10th through March 16th. And this being the week of the total lunar eclipse definitely makes it incredibly tough to predict how it'll go because unless I missed something, I did not identify any total lunar eclipses on that specific week in March in all of the examples we just explored here together. But it is clear that there's a pattern that plays out for that specific week, and that's what I want to review here with you today. Now, I'd like to venture over to the Bitcoin chart to see if there's some confluence with some of the key points that I brought up during this year of the snake analysis. Get over to the Bitcoin index chart. Actually go to the daily. We want to talk about the RSI, about the relative strength index oscillator, and significant corrections for Bitcoin, which we just had. And note our lowest RSI read that we've got was on, let me turn this setting on over here. So you could see when I hover over here, I know it's actually kind of messed up. Oh, there it is. So it's 24. That's the lowest RSI read that we've had so far. Now, just so you're aware, there wasn't a single day in 2024. Not one single day in 2024 that Bitcoin closed the daily candle with an RSI of 24. Just so you know. So we're extreme right now. The closest we got was June 24th and August 5th during the August new moon flash correction, which was a significant moment for us here in the Wolfpack because this was a correction that I warned about weeks before it happened. It did actually happen, and not only did that correction come to fruition, but it also was the lowest Bitcoin traded since, tapping into the 49K zone for a brief moment. So pretty incredible to watch that all go down. Flush to 49K during Satoshi's 49th year. Wild. Now, also the 49ers lost the Super Bowl that year. It's kind of fascinating, you know. Kamala Harris was tied to that San Francisco Bay Area. She lost. Now, let's find the last time Bitcoin had a daily close at or lower than 24. And interestingly enough, that was back in August of 2023. It was also during a new moon. So literally the August new moon played out the same way in 2023 as it did in 2024. So consider that for August new moon this year, because this could be giving us hints of how late July could turn out this year, given the energy is still bullish on our side. You know what I'm saying? Now, in both those recent examples, it did take Bitcoin almost 2 months to recover. And I think this is important to bring up. So during these two examples, it took Bitcoin around 2 months to recover into a bullish reversal. So keep that in mind. It didn't turn into a bear market, but it did take a little bit of time for us to build some structure, to stabilize, recover, push higher. It took about 2 months. But what's key to note is that during that significant drop to those exaggerated oversold levels on the RSI, it did technically mark the bottom, or at least gave us a base to trade on top of for the following month after the correction. So in plain English, let me turn off all of this noise. If Bitcoin was to in fact V-bottom from here, then consider it could actually drop back down to the low 80K or high 70K territory 1 month from today, like it did in 2023 and last year in 2024. Now, that's just me letting you know that there's a potential for this type of W pattern forming here, where we pop back up, correct back down into the, call it the March new moon. That would be the end of our eclipse season. And then we structurally recover from there into May. Keep that in mind, because that's in alignment with all the snake year analysis that we were doing as well. Now let's get back into the RSI, and you'll see when we've had other spikes down to the 24 RSI level on the daily. And dude, look at this. So top, that's our bottom. Look at where we went. It's 24 RSI. 24 RSI on November 9th. That was Bitcoin's bear market bottom. That was when Bitcoin was 15K. I'm not saying that we've made it to our bear market bottom at all. That's not what I'm trying to express here, but I'm just letting you know that when we make it to these sort of levels on the RSI, it's fucking super dramatic. Now let's go back to the start of our last lunar cycle, which was this move right here. Bitcoin had a 55% correction, and the lowest RSI read we got at that time was 23. Remember, just a couple days ago, we hit 24. Then what's also interesting about this correction is we actually wicked down to the extreme lows before the eclipse. So the eclipse was right here. It was on the 26th of May. We had this massive flush out come in before that eclipse, like we saw with the 2001 example, right before the lunar eclipse in that cycle. And then we recovered pretty much perfectly into the eclipse itself, chopped around, and then went slightly higher into June before kind of filling out this wick right here. So we did pretty much fully fill out the wick, like to the fucking dollar, before bouncing and recovering back to an ultimate macro double top. But I do just want to point out how long this process took of this to this, or let's go from the absolute bottom. 2 months. Just like I told you about August 2023 and August of 2024. It took about 2 months for us to deal with all of this. And we effectively marked our bottom with the wick and then just spent all this time chopping around. But there was a de-risk opportunity in the midst of it. We haven't even had close to what this has been. Like if I show you right here, this is a 27% correction, guys. This is why I'm trying to say that we could have this bear trap move. Well, I will cover that more technically in a moment, but we want to watch out for this. Because if it's going to get sloppy from here, like we're talking the end of the bull run, then we should have a recovery bounce in some way, shape, or form, because this has so far been the deepest correction we've had. Going back to here, again, August, new moon flash crash. So we do need to talk about that if there's going to be that chance. But again, it keeps aligning with March anyways. And also, just to consider, between 60 to 70 days after a drop into the sub 25 RSI level, we started recovering higher. And that was in the August example of 2023. That was in the August example of last year, 2024. That's at the start of the lunar cycle in May 2021. These are all synchronized together, guys. So if we were to apply that information, that would put us right into the month of May for that quote recover higher moment, where we could potentially be seeing that 110K, 112K, 115K Bitcoin, and so on. And that makes that second key month, May, for you to consider for our pattern of the year of the snake analysis. When we saw a drop into late February, which we just got, a recovery into the week of March 14th, which we could potentially be in the midst of, and then a drop back down into the end of March, around the end of our eclipse season, and then a very bullish April and higher highs into the month of May, which would then turn into a bull trap, and then we'd drop noticeably from that move up into late May, early June timeframe with one final push higher. So structurally, I could probably draw it out for you to let you know. Although it's hard for me to find a clean chart. This might help. Kind of like that. So this W with the washout, W, the washout, and then this chop recovery, you could consider it could be the same. So it's like this. Doesn't matter how it goes. But it puts us into that May. Let me see real quick. This does align. Maybe even a little bit deeper. But if they still wanted to play this parallel channel, which has been, by the way, in the whole market for us. This is a beautiful parallel channel, by the way, because you can see us stalling out on the outside of it, brush down into the bottom of our bear market, rejection at the top at the start of our solar cycle, then sideways until we got to the end of it. And then this is where the parallel channel really shines, because we shot straight up to the top of it, retested the heart line, went up into double top, or sorry, we went up into retesting our prior double top, and then we chopped sideways again, holding the heart line the whole time. Then again pushing higher, and then look, once we got to the outside of this parallel channel, we just continue to hold it until it couldn't hold anymore, and then we dropped straight to the heart line. So I feel like this is a very amazing parallel channel to have for everyone. And there is probably some other things that I could tap into to determine when Bitcoin is likely to get above this level, like above this again. But I think it would make sense that we kind of just have to take this one step at a time. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but this move right here would be very tough for most people because they wouldn't anticipate this breakout like that. They wouldn't anticipate this. Just like when we were falling lower here, you see, here's your low, here's your low, here's your low, and then we fell lower, and this scared the shit out of people. But what did we do? All we did was backtested the prior trading range. So that was actually what we needed. Well, we haven't backtested our prior trading range yet. Not yet. Do we need to? No. Would we? In the bear market? For sure. Are we moving directly into a bear market now? Well, we can't tell. We don't really know. We're in the midst of a noticeable straight line down correction, just like we saw over here. And that's exactly when the market maker does the absolute opposite. It's not when we're like moseying on up with low volatility. It's after a huge move down or a huge move up. Anyways, I hope this outlook kind of makes sense, and perhaps what we'll get into in a little bit will actually provide you more insights into how this can go. Now, also, regarding what happened in the months of April in 2013, the last year of the snake, we had that major move up. Also, we had a major correction to follow it, right? So it was like a local top. Then we also had April 1965, which was the last year of the wood snake. It went very similarly as well. So we do have a couple of those examples, but I'm just trying to synchronize everything I possibly can for you all right now. And also, we got that May top during what I was calling the worst case scenario, which was the 2001 iteration. Interestingly enough, that top in May 2001 was literally perfectly, listen closely. The top in May 2001 was literally on the May new moon, which landed on May 23rd. And our new moon this year also happens to be in late May, around May 27th. So could there be some synchronicity there to consider? I mean, I don't know too much what's going on right now in the world of other analysts, but I have been hearing some people, even in my own community, talk about how other people have been saying that they're anticipating a summer top. Now, if anyone took my crypto decoding blueprint, or you have my decoding mastermind, or you've heard me make any art over the past year, you've heard me talking about the August top. 2025, this having to do with the double peak cycle theory. Well, there you go. I mean, now a lot of people are starting to tap into this, and it's making me wonder. It's like, well, there's gonna be a complicated journey to get there, right? And it's not gonna go how everyone expects it. Just like this recent move right now, it did follow the esoteric data of the lunar cycle, but we didn't get it working the same way we did back in 2021, where we had, by the time we were already up here in price discovery for Bitcoin, every altcoin was doing amazing, right? In price discovery. We didn't even get price discovery for Ethereum this time. So it definitely threw a wrench in the cogs, right? Now let's go back to 2018 for just like our final example here. When we're looking at the RSI, this is in the like bear market. Get out of here. This is at the end of the bull run, start of the bear market. Like Bitcoin was already corrected fucking 60, almost 70%. Let me turn on the RSI. And you'll see our RSI was 26. And we were just at 24 a couple days ago. So we had this violent correction into February and a buyback into March on the bounce, early March. Now, this is actually one of the examples that I was using for how I thought the new moon would go. But it's funny that the new moon turned out the way that it's been turning out for the past 2 years. It's just the new moons, the moment we are closing in on them and during them, we're super bearish. So it's like, it's very different in a way than what we usually see with this like lunar phases, but it's still clear that it's there. It's amazing energies that you're seeing around the new moon or the full moon. But it's getting more and more tricky as we go. Perhaps the powers that be are learning, which I guess leads to either my popularity or someone else that's out there talking about it. I'm not sure. So I just wanted to show you that we did make it down to the low 20s, the mid 20 RSI back in 2018. And then we had a pretty crazy bounce from there. And this was the real bear market. You know what I'm saying? So there was still a bounce. Now, of course, you can take some time to check out this on your own. But let's just say that whenever we get Bitcoin hitting these levels on the daily RSI, around 25, usually it's during very dramatic times with a bunch of narratives to point to. And then we bounce from the lows as an automatic reaction to that drama. And just last week, we had the fear and greed index hit 10. That's right around where it was during the C19 scam crash in March 2020. Now, before we move into our more traditional technical analysis, of course, the Bitcoin CME chart and the CME gap is the talk of the town. So let's check in with that real quick before moving on. So we're going to go to the 4-hour chart. All right. Now, right there was when the gap formed here. We've now, one second. So yeah, I like it on the 4 hours. We could see that we literally swiped perfectly through this liquidity zone, but we didn't completely fill it. Now, perhaps some here remember something that I want to ask the community. You guys can help me out. I had a red pill that I released in late November, like right after the election, or early December, where I mentioned something along the lines of watch Bitcoin go to 100K, break the spirit of all the 100K Bitcoin deniers, and then chop around before pushing up into maybe like 110 and then swing to fill the CME gap. Now, of course, that's not what I said verbatim, but I did bring this up shortly after the CME gap formed. So imagine time travel back to mid-November. After the election, when this gap formed, I started sharing that theory. I basically presented a theory where we would hit 100K first and then fill the CME gap, and then the bull run continues. I don't remember what the red pill number was exactly. And obviously, I was wrong about the timing of this move. I was either completely wrong or I forgot it, but now I'm thinking of it. Since we've just gotten this filled, I'm trying to remember what red pill that was. Maybe somebody could clip it for me. They could share it with our community. It would be fascinating to see my take on things. And then again, check back in to see where I miscalculated, because that's absolutely a fact that I did. Now, I probably should have combined that fact that we're moving into a lunar cycle with that example that I had back then. And it would have made so much more sense why we weren't having that surge into the altcoins across the board like we typically do during what we call an alt season. But anyways, here we are. Bitcoin has essentially filled the CME gap, and you can see that we only have about $600 between what we're left to fill, between 77,930 and 78,675. It's just wild how once we filled most of this zone, Bitcoin bounced in a straight line up. And this move also is the lowest RSI that we've had for Bitcoin, the lowest RSI read we've had. I'm looking at the 4-hour chart, apologies. Yeah, it's the lowest RSI read we've had, right there around 30.9. Since August 2023. So, yeah. And with a significant drop occurring last week the way that it did, we now have a CME gap to the upside. It's right here, somewhere around 93K, which is a very dangerous zone for Bitcoin. So now I want to cover that like bull trap scenario, okay? The reason I say it's dangerous is because this was a support zone that Bitcoin was holding for like 3 months before we broke down. And it aligns with the 0.5 fib level, which means that if we come back and only fill that gap, then we get rejected at like 94 to 96K. This could turn into a dead cat bounce, which would sink Bitcoin deeper into the 70K territory. And that's kind of like the end of the bull run scenario. But if they really wanted to crush everyone's spirit, it would be more like a move back up to 100, like right around this 702 fib, maybe right around the 100K spot chart, and then sink us into officially filling the CME gap for the partial solar eclipse, like at the end of March. And that end of the month dump vibe, like we've been experiencing here, just like in February, whilst the more positive scenario, so that would be like really shatter everyone's spirits, right? Because you bring us up to 100K again and then sink us back down to like fill just that slight liquidity zone, similar to this move right here. Huge move to the downside, crazy buyback, come right back down to fill out the zone again and then continue going. Yeah, that'd be pretty messed up. But we did just explain how that's a possibility, and everyone here is expecting a correction in March anyways, so it's like this wouldn't really be news to you. It's just we got a much more significant and dramatic correction first before any significant move up for the altcoins. So it's just something to keep in mind that we could have that push back up, come down for the W bottom or the double bottom, and then pop back out higher, like we've been kind of sharing some other scenarios. So the more positive scenario would be following the snakier pattern with an overall bullish April and then push higher into May. We just talked about this, which is how the 2001 chart played out. Now let's check in with the Bitcoin dominance chart. Let it bleed, please. It's holding strong at 61%. Wow. And I say holding strong because even with Bitcoin taking this major hit during this 28% correction, we're seeing Bitcoin is effectively just backtesting the peak of November and is currently confirming it as a support, at least for right now, which would align with Bitcoin dominance pushing up higher to eventually completely fill this wick between 64 to 65%, which is something that I've been talking about for a while now. And what's really interesting about this chart is how we just continue trading up in this parallel channel. If we were to, we would actually be hitting this 64.5-ish percent right around this macro 786 fib at the very beginning of June. And that actually aligns with the timing for the May peak and an additional mid-cycle correction, and then that final push into July, latest August for the entire crypto market. But I think we have to admit that the structure we're seeing here, when we zoom out and look at the whole like long-term Bitcoin dominance chart, I'll put it on the 3-day so you can see what I mean. Yeah, this is different. This is not like anything we've seen before. It's literally been trading within this parallel channel now for 2 years, holding higher lows and pushing into higher highs over and over and over again. Question is, when will it break down? Well, you can see we broke down when we got to around 70 back in late 2017, and then we also broke down into the beginning of 2021 around the same level. Will Bitcoin also do the same thing and just continue to steal dominance all the way till it gets to 70, 71, 72% again? And be a repeat of our last 3 cycles? Well, if we were to do that, you can see if I go here to this wick, well, we completed that move in 40 days. If I go over here, I mean, this was completed in almost a week. Sooner, right? So technically this move can happen swiftly. Here you can see if we were to ignore this move, I mean, however you want to look at it, like we could push up there pretty damn quick, but we would then be invalidating this parallel channel, which is fine. That's meant to be. Patterns are meant to be broken. Will we eventually escape this and then just have Bitcoin dominance shoot straight up to 70 and repeat what we've seen? Well, guess what? If it was to do that, then of course we would have a very clear confirmation of an incoming alt season, because we wouldn't just expect Bitcoin dominance to keep going up and up and up, right? Like that would be, unless we just see every altcoin go to zero and they all Satoshi out, or they all go to stables and then those stables will find their way to Bitcoin. I mean, of course, we need to be prepared for some weird stuff to unravel, but yeah, just being honest here. So let's check in with Ethereum dominance. And it's shot. It looks like a firmament dome. We were in a sideways range from 2021 all the way to 2024, 3 years now. And then we've been falling since July of last year. Bitcoin dominance has pretty much been falling for 8 months straight. And now we're sub 10% ETH dominance, which we haven't seen in like 5 years. So yeah, we're in extremes right now. It's obvious. So now that we've built this foundation after reviewing the macro and the S&P 500, let's jump into just finishing up this Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then XRP analysis to see where we're at right now that we've experienced this noticeable correction for the crypto market. Starting with the monthly close for Bitcoin, which I'm going to suspect was quote unquote bearish. Obviously breaking structure. All right. So, because of the timing, the way that all of this liquidity left Bitcoin in the final week, that's really like not the best data to work with. I'm not trying to do that to be like giving you hopium or to be a permable or anything like that. I'm just being 100% honest. Like when you get all of your data in the final 3 to 4 days, it just makes the data inaccurate, you know? So when you're doing macro analysis, but we were holding pretty much sideways for 24 out of, like 22 out of the 28 days of the month, barely moving at all. Yeah, then having it all turn red all the way at the very end and then just naturally aligning with our monthly close. Just realize that monthly closes are, you need to consider what I just said, in my opinion. Whilst here, you see that this candle structure right there was your final green. And then on this major red candle, we were below it, right? Well, that would be like us breaking below 70 on the monthly. So obviously, you'll hear me say it right now. If Bitcoin closes a monthly below 70K, then that's it. It's over. Unless we were to have something which I haven't seen before, and you guys can let me know if you can entertain this idea, and I'm not sure if I can, but like we just watched altcoins get hit pretty damn hard. So if we were to see Bitcoin drop into like 70, for instance, and this was our real true top, and then for whatever reason, that's when Bitcoin starts spilling over into the altcoins, then sure, we have the weirdest cycle we've ever fucking seen, and then everyone is just kind of wrong together, right? It's whatever. Like, there's still an opportunity to make money. I'm not being emotional right now. I'm just letting you know. The technical thing I'm seeing here is the fact that we traded on top of the double top for 8 monthly candles, then broke out, and then we've just recently got this shitty red candle with 4 final days in the month being red after just being sideways for 3 weeks out of the 4 weeks in the month. Kind of makes the data strange, right? But the fact that we have yet to officially backtest the prior trading range after breaking out into price discovery, that is something to talk about, although it doesn't need to happen. Why doesn't it need to happen? Well, we didn't do it in this last fractal over here. We just popped up and kept going higher. And here, I believe a lot of the reason we did it was actually very bullish reason to confirm the prior double top or the large macro M pattern as an official support and not a resistance, right? And that's clear and it's been confirmed. So do we turn out like this, like the 2023 pattern, where we've kind of effectively made our top and it will take this amount of time or so? Let's put it from this green one right here. Take about to June. And then that final push. If that's the way it goes, it's still better than us just ending it all right now, right? Like, I mean, it's just hold on and be patient at that point. Structurally, though, until we actually start closing a monthly below 70, I'm not calling this over. Let's get to the biweekly. Biweekly, definitely not good, right? Because we've keeled over here, but as I said, we got all this red in that final couple days, so it's really just not fair. And now we're probably gonna have another CME gap when the CME chart opens back up later. So it's going to be another gap to the downside. That would be pretty comical if we just quickly fill it and then we complete our move. Or if they really want to fuck this up, they just fill the main gap, right? Immediately at the beginning of the week on the 3-3 date, the 33 date, March 3rd. I mean, I'm not saying it's 100% going to go that way because it's already been pretty messed up. But one thing to mention is that when it comes to these new moon corrections, it's like they typically tend to fully bottom out before the 5th of every month. Like by the 5th, they're pretty much bottomed. And then if that's the case where they keep moving down to the 5th or before the first week is over of every month, then you definitely call that a more macro low. So it's kind of like the rip the band-aid off thing. But bi-weekly is not looking the greatest. Let's pull up some moving averages and see what we got here. Backtesting the 21. Now, when you're looking at bi-weekly analysis, you could actually have a complete flush down to the 34 and still be perfectly normal. And that's what we had during the August new moon flash correction. We had this major dump to the 34, kissed it, bounced right back up, and held structure the whole time, even though we started to keel over and make like a bull flag. Let's look at the weekly. Oof, yeah, this is really like when it comes to a bull run, guys. Like I've learned this before. Holding that 34 is it kind of does mean everything, but but what's so fucking sneaky about this particular thing is we did this in the last bull run where we had this major drawdown. We traded below the 34 as resistance. As you can see right here, this took us like a couple of weeks. So once we dropped significantly below it, we started popping back into it, getting rejected over and over again. And then we eventually got back over it. Like as it started to cross bearish, it's a true bear market when you have them cross into bearish posture, which is the 34 above the 13. We're not there right now. We actually are in a similar thing to what was going on over here of July, August of last year, which is also aligning with our RSI. So a lot of people might look at this and say, okay, well, we need to hold the 34, but we didn't last year. We just didn't. Not only we didn't, we fucking closed below it before we went much higher. So that's really deceiving to take that as a like a technical call, right? I'm just trying to teach you right now how these things are starting to change in the behavior for Bitcoin. They work very well in like traditional markets, but yeah, Bitcoin's not the same animal. Although, yeah, I love these indicators, these particular moving averages, they help me a lot. I just need to see multiple other confirmations. And if I'm having things like very dramatically oversold RSI on shorter time frames leading up into like 2-day or 3-day chart, then I take that into consideration as well. So you never just look at one particular indicator, obviously. Let's look at the daily. Now we're seeing all the daily EMAs are flipped bearish. We started to see that actually leading into this drawdown into early Feb, which was definitely a warning signal. And now that we've dropped down, let's see where our 55 is. Okay, so yeah, our 55 is also up there, and we're now getting supports on the 200 SMA, which is a very good thing. Like when you're going to have a major drop down like that, holding on the 200 SMA is good, and hopefully popping up from there, similar to what we did over here in March. We had this retail banking black swan in March 2023. We just caved into this 200 simple, and then we pushed higher V-shaped recovery. That'd be the best case scenario, obviously. Obviously, if Bitcoin pops from here and hits a new all-time high, by the beginning of March, then congratulations. We just lived through like one of the biggest psychological operations / bear traps in the history of the crypto market. But yeah, just consider that this is a very technical level to hold as well. We also have the fact that we can trade below it, and sometimes when Bitcoin is trading below it in a bull run, it's some of the best buying opportunities you get for Bitcoin or the coins that Bitcoin's bringing down. Obviously, ETH has been very, very influenced by Bitcoin's bearishness. Whenever Bitcoin gets hit, Ethereum gets really hit, and Solana has been pretty much bullish for most of the cycle until like just recently. It's now starting to really get rough, and obviously all the meme coinery is causing that. So let's quickly check in with ETH. I brought this up in my recent update, and I want to kind of save time and not get too deep into this right now, especially while I'm seeing this bounce in XRP. But we're pretty much holding this significant level that we've wicked down into many times throughout this whole cycle. Now, one thing I do need to obviously address is this trend line break. We've literally held this trend line for like almost 1,000 days. Look at that. Now we broke through it, and we broke through it very violently. So this 0.5 fib needs to hold. It needs to hold. Unless ETH is done. You know, like people talk about like Bitcoin getting turned, like if Bitcoin's going to go to zero and there's going to be another coin that'll, whatever. I'm not going to go there right now, but maybe that's happening to ETH. Like maybe that's literally I showed you the ETH dominance chart. I showed you the ETH dominance chart. It's at fucking 9%, and this shit is not hit a new all-time high. It's getting rejected at a very technical level, the 888. It's now come all the way back down to the same price that it was at last year, January 22. Holy shit. Like, this is... If ETH just doesn't have a bull run this cycle, is that why we don't have the traditional alt season that we usually get? Is that the case? I don't know. Are there bigger plans for ETH? Probably. Tokenization of the stock market is one of them. Will ETH be used the way that we're seeing it being used, the way that we used to see it be used? Probably not. Did they make it the way that they made it, kind of like planned product obsolescence, so that it's broken or has problems like the high gas fees? Did they do that on purpose? Probably. That's how the elite work. Has nothing to do with Vitalik. He has a handler. So all this stuff that's going on right now, it's been pretty fascinating to see how ETH has been lagging. And then since it's gotten this pretty dramatic correction, I just want to see, like, what is the reaction to this? Do we treat this as resistance? Or does ETH actually wake up from its slumber and start actually recovering back above this level, but breaking this 888? Well, I can't tell you until we get there. This 888 needs to break. Now, the timing of things would still be, I guess, technically kind of early, right? Because if we were to make it a full 4 years, it would be May 2021. All right. If we were to make it a full 4 years from the November top, it would be November 2021, 2025. So yeah, we're just seeing a really lackluster ETH right now, but are we getting this backup phase that we got in August 2020 into September 2020? This backup phase that kind of sets us up, it's kind of grueling, you know, lasts maybe 60 days before we pop. Could that be the case? Let me quickly just grab this fractal. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but this gives you kind of an idea. Could that be? Where would this take us? Oh no, I highly doubt this. 20 is a lot, but it gives you kind of the concept. Oh, but that does make sense to me. Breaking above the top that we're forming right now in late June, because of everything that I've shared about the August thing. That would be a crazy recovery. But hey, has ETH done it before? Yes. Look at January 2024 to March 2024. We did that straight line breakout from this exact level we're trading at now all the way to the exact level that I was pointing to, the 888 fib. Look at, we pretty much did it also over here too. The speed that we can swipe through 2,300 ETH all the way to 4,000 ETH is fast. So I'm bearish on ETH right now based on this chart and based on the way it's been behaving. I didn't sell any. I'm not de-risking any at this time because it's a long-term hold for me anyways. But if it does start to keel over more and more and more, then it's just a losing play for me. And again, another miscalculation, but it's fine. That's what investing is. It's not my biggest position. I mean, it's minimal comparatively to what I have in XRP. I have way more XRP. All right, so XRP. Now that we're talking about it, perfect timing. Wow. Okay, so we had a very interesting pattern that was forming. Nothing macro enough for us to really deeply consider, but I do want to keep these two white trend lines on the screen for everyone. I do have a fib pull in the short term from our local high at 338 down to this 177. I told everyone that I thought that this was the bottom. I didn't feel like this would get fully filled. So far, that is not completely, well, so far that's a positive sign that I don't even like care to fucking say what's right or wrong anymore. It's irrelevant to me. But this is a positive sign. I'll say that the fact that we've come down to this 236 and we've actually not ventured down into the sub $2 zone, it shows that there was a strong level at 2 for XRP. And we love to see that. That's all that matters. Not being right or wrong. Great that we've actually held this level. We did not plant a lower low than the end of the year kind of correction that we got for XRP. And you can see the speed at which we moved off of the same exact level right here up to the $3 level took about 15 days. So remember the fractal that I showed you. I'm not sure where that fractal is. It's probably up here. Oh yeah, awesome. So, I mean, obviously fractals don't play out identical every single time, but the idea behind this fractal was the fact that we had this top over here and then a higher top, and then I did expect this jump up, but then a plus a rejection. We just went deeper though. So it's fascinating how we have been pretty much holding the fractal price-wise. We didn't go as low on this first rundown, but the fractal's still in play, man. Like, still in play. This shit could still actually pop back up to 260 to 270 leading into the eclipse time frame, if we are to get Bitcoin to bump back up the way that we saw in the fractals that we were looking at earlier. And this still shows a move up for XRP. Oh, that would be crazy. That'd be crazy if we do break out like this, violently break out by the March, mid-March time frame into April. That'd be crazy. But April's the best performing month for XRP as well. So that would be gnarly. At this point, yeah, we just gotta kind of gotta wait and see because we're chopping in a horizontal trading range. Not much of an update here, but holding two is crucial because once we lose two, it'll do a Bitcoin and it'll slide all the way back to 137, like 140-ish. Okay, so just keep that in mind. XRP technically needs to hold two because once we start closing macro candles lower than there, you're gonna get the push back to the top of the golden pocket, which is 160, and there's really nothing going on there anyways. So yeah, 140 would be next, and then you would need Bitcoin to just break down much more than it already has, considering. So remember, I said it recently in my update over here, November 10th, Bitcoin was trading around 85,000, where it's trading at today, and XRP was 50 to 60 cents. Today it's 227, so not bad. Another thing, I'm sorry if this chart is a little messy. Let me try to find a cleaner one for you. You guys deserve it. Put the windshield wipers on the screen. All right, so we do have some clear data here. Again, trend lines don't need to be perfect. That's not what trend lines in crypto are about. They're just giving you the trend. One thing I like to do is copy a trend line and see if it's forming a parallel channel naturally. Also, doesn't need to be perfect, but it gives you a little bit of a range to consider. Not as clean over here, but what do you expect, right? We got the flash crash over here, and that kind of is obviously going to mess up liquidity zones. But I suspect if we could break that 250, that's it. And this is probably what I would talk about in my next YouTube video, so you guys are obviously getting it here first as Mastermind community members. Something like this play. You see right here? We did it. Like a weird W with a higher. So it'd be an inverse head and shoulders. Like if you wanted to just give, if I gave you a pattern, it's an inverse head and shoulders. Yeah. Sorry. Even I'm like so in the weeds. Like I've been doing this technical analysis at a professional level now for so long that like I don't even think about these patterns or these. I just kind of like visualize everything. But yeah, that would be an inverse head and shoulders if it's to go the positive way. The other way that it could go is if for whatever reason like lots of dominance gets stolen and goes back into ETH or something like Solana, and then we have one of these sort of deals around the eclipse. And the reason I get to entertain that is because that's kind of how XRP starts to trade. It gets into these like very tight ranges before it makes some really like weird dramatic moves. So here was the end of the this is why we really got to be careful, guys, because at the end of the bull run for Bitcoin, you see that it was like days before we corrected, came back right into around early June. Around the levels we were already potentially holding support, broke through. That's a warning sign, and hence dipped lower with a nice W. But who the fuck wants to deal with that, right? Because that would be like seeing XRP break down into here. That would be crazy. So like I'm saying, I'm really putting emphasis on the fact that we need to hold these levels right now. Otherwise, I said it a million times, de-risk your XRP. Don't bitch and moan or complain. Fucking de-risk your play. Don't complain. You're at $2.27. We said it a billion times. Do what's best for you. You know, I'm just, this is the Red Pill podcast. Somebody has to speak this way sometimes because nobody wants to take it seriously. But the warnings have been said a gajillion times. Do I think this is it for XRP? No. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. But I don't expect this to be the end without at least price discovery, without some venturing into higher levels. So now let's get into some of these other altcoins today. We're looking at ZBEC. Okay. All right. Yeah, not a whole lot of data on this one. So we're kind of looking at technically not even one full year, but we can entertain some of this. And I'm going to start actually by pulling a this is very tough actually. Let me pull some horizontal rays. It's the best I could do right now with a project like this. And you're going to see like the method to my madness. Remember, always start with horizontal trading ranges. Swipe through as many liquidity levels as possible. Gives you your larger trading range, and now you have this zone right here of like thin air. So we filled this zone, came back to the top. You could see we were holding on it for pretty decent amount of 3 months. Okay, so 2 months before breaking down. We sank to the bottom of this level right here, and then we chopped from support to lift off for about 225 days before filling this gap here that was formed. Obviously not the typical gap, but you know what I mean. So what we would want ideally now is to continue holding this level and to not drop back into this lower zone. But you can see that this has kind of tapped on the 702 fib, and it will tap if I do it like this, if I wanted to do the extreme pull. So that's a de-risk zone anyways. You always de-risk in the middle of the golden pocket. So yeah, this is kind of one of those moments where you do see 382 is common and 236 is even common as well. So on a more macro perspective, I would look at it like this: buying climax, selling climax, automatic rally, lower high failed test, spring, and your SOS. Now we're in a backup phase. So your backup phase, you want to hold not only your fib level, but you see right here, all of this, it's flirting with this area many times. 1, 2, 3. So yeah, coming back down there to backtest it and to hold it as a support is necessary at this stage, but it doesn't mean we can't start chopping in here. I mean, ideally you'd want that. You'd want chop to confirm this is filled fully and this is the fair price when it gets there. Other than that, I can't really provide too many additional insights because there's such limited data, but I think there were some TA lessons that I was able to provide with you right there without getting too fancy and add a whole bunch of different, indicators and whatnot. One thing I could do is something like this. If you wanted an immediate downside target, I would be pulling from here to here, reverse fib. I'm going to double click and I'm going to turn this off. This would tell me like an extreme downside move that could be in the cards, somewhere right below 000 or 001. Okay. Now that's obviously just like your support zone all over again. So I'll put this over here for those that care about this project. If we do go to Hades, yeah, that's the level. And if you want to be even more fancy, you turn this back on and then you have another level that you could consider. Oops. Boom. Right there. And that's in alignment with these three major moves. The W. 0111. I like that level. That would be the deeper, more dramatic level, obviously. And then I could assume we probably hit the 1618 on here. Pretty much. Let's just say we pretty much got there. Yeah. So we hit the 1618 on this major pull from swing high to swing low on both linear or logarithmic. And that's, again, clear necessity for marking out these horizontal levels, because then you don't even need to be good at fibs. The fibs just kind of support your ability to identify horizontal trading ranges. So yeah, that was fun. I feel like probably a lot of you learned on that. Something. All right. Elaxar, a laxative. We're looking at a laxative. This is if you need laxatives, learn how to eat more fruit, or go to Taco Bell and don't listen to that advice. All right, so we're looking at pretty clear automatic rally phase into a spring. And where was this at? Wow, wowie zowie. Okay, this is insane move. Very sharp. This is not good. This is like the end kind of move. Okay. Yeah. Um, it's too soon, too quick to be. Yeah, it's too soon to do this kind of thing. What is this? Holy shit. Pretty nice move, you know, from 30 cents to 270. That's like what XRP kind of has done from the bear market to the local. No, I mean it's been higher than that, but like I'm just letting you know the speed at which it did it was very, very violently. Now we're down 90 or okay, 85%. It's not the end, but very crazy. Welcome to crypto, right? Like this looks like the end of a bull run because you see how deep it went before this lower high, and then our lower high was even actually marked lower than this move over here. You see, like at least in ARs you see it go like that. Obviously AR is an opportunity to de-risk because you've just bounced off of a substantial decline. Yeah, man, this is just too limited data as well. Maybe let's hold off on voting on this stuff, guys, because I'm not sure what really we could do. So yeah, next time let's get some more chart history and vote on other more interesting charts. I have to get real fucking creative now, you know? But this is a technique that I've been doing a lot lately, and I've been having a lot of fun with more experimental technical analysis. So these are like the main zones. You see that little back test there? Pop below, come back to it, pop, pop into this range, rejection, fall through it. So the lower one, if you want to entertain that. And for some reason, when you pull one that's very good and then just keep duplicating it, it's like it stays pretty damn solid. So there's something going on, like the rising um, lines. It's fun. It's like it looks like music now. Okay, yeah, I mean, really what we're dealing with here is we're just chopping at the lower zone, so holding support is all we can do. And until we get back above this zero point 0.5 fib, which is a ways away, it's about 100 what 50%. Yeah, like you have some room to go. Definitely not really an altcoin that's being traded by most people. It's kind of living in its own little reality over here. It's near protocol. What's going on here? All right, got a lot more data now. Very good. So major run up, SOS, backup phase, buying climax of the macro cycle, double top, M pattern breaks down, comes back to the significant level, which we also just got rejected at and came down lower. Holding this 382 is pretty important, but I do now need to add an additional level off of the bear market levels. At least those probably aren't as significant right now, but it's right here. So you see at the end of the bull run, we just cascaded straight here. Came back up, rejection, came back down, and then once we broke below it, that was a sign, because you see here we go from support to resistance, break down deeper. Then we got back above it, back tested it, and that's clear that since we just come back to it, this is one of the most significant levels in the near chart. So if you guys are near investors, just consider that where we're at right now is actually like a buying zone, technically. I'm not telling you to buy, I'm not telling you what to do with your finances, but this is kind of like a buying zone. Given that we still also have about 500% to backtest the prior all-time highs, and we did get clearly rejected at the 702 fib. So that's a very technical level, meaning buying climax, selling climax, automatic rally, and now you've I don't even know. That's not even really true. It's like buying climax, selling climax, automatic rally, like a really lackluster spring backup phase is in the process now, and it's just very arduous. The same way we fell so violently, like we're having this backup phase like here, okay? Where you see this crown top, that's your crown top. It's just we're going to the deeper part of it now, okay? Like technically, we're spending more time trading here than we did back here. So like 2025 is more bearish than 2024, considering most of the year. And we're just back to the beginning of 2024 levels. So we've just kind of returned right back to it, meaning it's extending, right? And that's sensible because back here it was a brand new project. Over here, it's been trading for almost 4.5 years now, right? So yeah, holding this 382 is big, but it's really this horizontal trading level. right here. And if you break below here, it's going to be problems. Could probably be a macro double bottom. Again, only likely if Bitcoin continues just going south from here. But the fact that Bitcoin's at 85 and we've seen this come back to a technical level, Bitcoin's also bounced at a very technical level, that's promising. That this could be a like a dollar cost average opportunity for people that bought this a little higher, you know? Because if you bought this over here, like I'm just giving you a little lesson now on investing, is like if you bought this at 6, well, now you're down 45, so 45%. So like this would even you out. And if you were to get in at this level at around 3, it's going to put you around like 450-ish in your in your excuse me, in your average. Now, if you were to go back to the levels of like 8, you're already up 80%, right? From that, getting a little bit more involved. Now, you don't bet the farm on this. You don't put everything. I'm just telling you, like, this should be venture capital anyways. This should be 1 to 2% of your position max anyways, right? So a little bit of investing wisdom there. Now we got Illuvium, I think this is called. Whoa. Ending on a weird note today. Oh, ye. God. Okay, gotta get my composure together. Someone ate Taco Bell. Someone ate too much Taco Bell and no toilet paper. Forgot to buy toilet paper. And they're in their Tinder dates house right now. Suffering. Suffering greatly. Wow. Holy moly. Are we holy guacamole with no chips? All right, 99.09% down. Just falling lower. Clearly broke below one of the most important levels. Oof. For anyone holding this, I can feel the pain in the digestive system because there's been no relief. I mean, unless you got out in March 2024, which was pretty much 1 year ago, this has been sliding since. And even then, it's probably 90%. Okay, so this is like in the process of going to zero. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that it will 100% go to zero. I'm just saying that retail or whoever's holding this is just going to sell and sell and sell and sell and sell and sell and sell until there's nothing left. Because as far as I'm aware, this was like the start of the data. I actually imported a fractal that I got from like CoinTrader Pro or something like this. And we've even broken lower than where this launched. So what that means is it is in price discovery now to the downside. Just so you're aware. Bitcoin was 15K here. Bitcoin today is 86K. This was $2,000 at one point. Now it's lower than 20. So this is really not the move. Yeah. We can't talk too much about this because it's in price discovery to the downside. So really all I can do is like if I wanted to get fancy, I could do this. Yeah, we've kind of hit my first level. You see how I use the reverse fib? And we're kind of there. If we want to get more dramatic, which I don't want to do, but like, okay, oh God, 10. Now this could happen during the bull run, by the way. If like nobody is interested in a thing, they'll just sell it for something that's more interesting. Like that's the way it goes, guys. Oh, where did this go? Oh, it's like going negatives. It's like I don't even the fib is like I don't even want to show you. It's like I don't even want to tell you where it could go, dude. It said just stop eating Taco Bell. Hey, you idiot. I'm not calling whoever invested in this an idiot, by the way. Please, we're having fun. It's the final moments of the red pill. We're having jokes. This is obviously tragic, but hey, venture capital. Man. All right, so yeah, 10. It could slide to 10, based on a technical target. And could it go deeper? Sure. Why does it need to stop at 10? Is there anything we're getting here? Oof, yeah, maybe this, maybe this, maybe. Whoa, we're below it now. Oof, okay, we're gonna have to end it. Otherwise it's just like a comedy roast. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with this project. Clearly, no one wants to hold it. There's just selling, 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 too much selling pressure, and no reversal energy coming in. And that obviously matters a lot. There needs to be somebody on the other side that wants to take this and hodl this and push this up. And obviously, everybody who's buying it is just either panic selling or just leverage trading it. If there's an opportunity to leverage trade this with like a stable coin pair, I'm not sure, but I'm gonna have to wrap this one up here. It's been about an hour and a half. It was great to spend all this time hanging out with y'all. Got a plenty of positive things amongst some of the negatives that have unfolded over the past week. Literally just one calendar week of red in the streets. Let's see how this upcoming week goes. We have this exoteric narrative with the Trump tariffs 25% in the European Union. I am kind of speculating that that was all priced in to the recent drop that we've had. It's very timely as well with the end of February, similar to what we've seen with many other Year of the Snake iterations. Other than that, I will be sharing a midweek update if necessary. You can guarantee on that, just like last week and the week before. I've been going into overtime, posting actually, to try to just keep you guys as updated as possible. So I'll catch you all very soon. Wishing you all a beautiful rest of your weekend in the Matrix. Much love.